Right now, while the talk is about Ukraine, the focus is on Joe Biden hosting allies at the NATO summit who are reported to be nervous and saddened by threats to his presidency. Here's some analysis through the lens of the Republican Speaker of the House.
All those NATO leaders are here on the Hill, as you know. These foreign leaders are coming in, prime ministers, heads of state, and they are telling us privately that they're deeply concerned. A weak America is bad for the whole world.
Joining us now, Michael Crowley, diplomatic correspondent for the New York Times. I guess it depends on what they're concerned about causing a weak America, right? So tell us what you are hearing about the level of concern from NATO leaders who are here in D.C.
Yeah, Chris, you got it exactly right. That was my reaction to that quote from the speaker. What is the context? What are they referring to? Look, I'm sure there's concern about President Biden's condition. There's concern across America. Everyone who's following the campaign is trying to figure out how President Biden is doing and whether there's anything that has changed that has made it difficult for him to be president of the United States. And I'm sure those concerns are shared overseas. Be a little surprised if visiting dignitaries were sharing that with leaders of the opposition. It's typically not the kind of thing that you say. That foreign officials tend to be more discreet and cautious about that. I do think on a more substantive policy basis, they would be quite willing to say that they are very concerned about America's long-term commitment to NATO. And that, of course, would be the context there would be the potential that Donald Trump would become president of the United States. And we know that Trump has been extremely critical of the NATO alliance to the point where he has even intimated that he might not honor the NATO treaty's mutual collective self-defense clause, Article 5, so that if Russia were to attack a NATO member that was not paying at least 2% of its defense budget, of its national budget on defense, which is the agreed upon goal for NATO countries, Trump is saying he might not come to their defense. And honestly, I think that is probably the bigger source of concern right now.
Yeah, I actually traveled with then President Trump to his first NATO meeting where he made comments about Article 5 that shook a lot of NATO to its core. And I think that hasn't changed significantly in any way. In fact, let's talk a little bit about what I said the focus was, at least in terms of issues, which is Kyiv, Ukraine, Russia, and the level of concern that Donald Trump may pull funding altogether, the exact opposite of what obviously President Biden has successfully done, which is to show support.
Right, Chris. And I mean, these things are related to the extent that a lot of these NATO leaders might be concerned about President Biden. I think their concern is not, oh, you know, the American president is old and weak and therefore America is weak. I think their concern is President Biden may not run an effective campaign and therefore is vulnerable to being defeated by Donald Trump. And then who knows what happens? Will Trump try to yank America out of NATO? Will he say he's not going to observe Article 5? And as you say, what about funding for Ukraine? Is he going to try to essentially cut off American aid to Ukraine, which basically everyone agrees would result in Ukraine needing to cut a pretty bad peace deal with Russia?
Michael Crowley, it is always good to have you on the program. Thank you so much.
Hey there, MSNBC fans. I'm Luke Russert, and be sure to join me, Rachel Maddow, Jen Psaki, Lawrence O'Donnell, Steve Kornacki, Joy Reid, and many more September 7th in Brooklyn, MSNBC Live Democracy 2024. Click on the link for ticket information. We will see you there.